All right, so we're graphing each rational function, give the equation of all asymptotes, and identify the domain and the range. So the first thing that we're always going to do is your vertical asymptote. Your vertical asymptote is any x value that makes your denominator equal 0. So I'm going to take my denominator, x minus 3, and I'm going to put it equal to 0 because I have to find out what x makes it equal 0. So I add 3 to both sides. So x equals 3 is going to be my vertical asymptote. So vertical going up and down through positive 3. There's my vertical asymptote. Then I have to find my horizontal asymptote. So my horizontal asymptote, since I have x to the first power on top and x to the first power on the bottom, then it's just the ratio of the coefficients. So the number in front of the x on top is a 1. The number in front of the x on the bottom is a 1. So my horizontal asymptote is going to be y equals 1. So horizontal left to right through y is 1. Those are my asymptotes. And then I just sketch the graph. It's positive, so top right and bottom left. They get close to the asymptotes but don't touch it. And then I have to do my domain and my range. So my domain is my most left, negative infinity, to my first asymptote, because I'm going left to right, so it stops at this positive 3. It doesn't touch it, so it gets a parentheses, a u, because then it's going to restart at positive 3 but doesn't touch it, and continues to positive infinity. So I'm continuing, it stops, doesn't touch the positive, and then continues on some more. My range, I'm going to start from the lowest. It's going to be similar to the domain. I'm going to start from the lowest, go up to positive 1 where it stops, and then it's going to start again. So negative infinity is the lowest. It goes up 2 but doesn't touch positive 1, starts again above positive 1 but doesn't touch it, and continues to positive infinity. So when I'm doing domain, I use my vertical asymptote. When I do range, I'm going to use my horizontal asymptote. All right, on to number 2. Number 2, to find my vertical asymptote, take the denominator, 4x minus 8, set it equal to 0. Solve for x. So add 8 to both sides. 4x equals 8. Divide by 4. So x equals 2 is my vertical asymptote. My horizontal asymptote, I have x to the first power on top, x to the first power on the bottom, so the degrees are equal. So I'm going to use the ratio of the coefficients. So the number in front of the x on top is a 1. The number in front of the x on the bottom is a 4. So my horizontal asymptote is 1/4. Y equals 1/4. So vertical at positive 2. Horizontal at 1/4. I'm just going to estimate a little bit there. Between 0 and 1, it's a positive rational function. So top right and bottom left. Close to but not touching my asymptotes. Then for domain, I'm going to use the vertical asymptote. So I'm going to go negative infinity to my vertical asymptote at 2 with a parentheses, u to start the next area of graph, 2 to positive infinity. Everything has a parentheses because we're not touching that vertical asymptote. For my range, I use my horizontal asymptote. So lowest, negative infinity, it goes all the way up to but doesn't touch positive 1/4. Gets a parentheses since it's not touching it, starts again at positive 1/4 not touching it, and continues to positive infinity.